Hello and welcome to part 4 of my review of the Marvel Ultimate Graphic Novels collection. Today I will be reviewing the books that were released as issues 10, 11 and 12. And we start off with a book that I was really looking forward to getting. And through my life I've always been a comic books fan. But there have been periods in my life where I've not bought comic books. Usually it's connected to some kind of financial reason, and you know, I've had to cut things down, and comics have been one of the things that I've cut. But something's always brought me back. Last year it was the New 52 that brought me back to comics. This at this point in time that this book came out, I wasn't buying comics. But when I saw who was writing this book, I decided to give it a go. To start buying, I thought I'll put one comic book up a month. This is what I'm going to do. But you know, once you start buying comics, you can't just buy one book. You see all the adverts and you get sucked into buying, or maybe I'll just buy 3, maybe I'll just buy 5, and before you know it you're back in them deep waters. So the book in question is Astonishing X-Men Gifted, written by Joss Whedon and art by John Cassaday. Joss Whedon is of course the creative force behind such TV shows as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Dollhouse, Firefly, as well as the Avengers movie that came out last year. So I was really looking forward to reading this book. Again, I've got all the original issues, but I've never owned it as a graphic novel. So I was really happy when I saw this was part of the collection, and really happy to be reading this book again. And I must say, it was even better than I remembered it, you know. The initial story sees Cyclops is now in charge of the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters and in charge of the X-Men. And he decides that to help further this dream of peaceful coexistence between Homo superior and Homo sapien, that they need to have a new team of X-Men, and that they've got a bit bogged down in mutant issues, and they need to be out there, they need to be seen saving the world, just like the Fantastic Four, just like the Avengers, and that this will help towards regular people accepting mutants. So he puts the team together of himself, Emma Frost, Wolverine, Beast and Kitty Pryde, and the dynamic between his team right from the beginning is fantastic, because you've got Beast and you've got Kitty Pryde, who are very peaceful, very pacifist. They want to try and find the peaceful solution first before they go to war, where Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, Wolverine and Emma Frost are very much kill the bitch. You know, like, they're like, we need to take these people out, we need to deal with this, and they'll always look for the most violent solution first. And then you sort of got Cyclops, who's in the middle, who's listening to these both views and trying to find the best course of action. So I really, straight from the start, loved that dynamic of the team. Their first mission is this character called Ord of the Break World, with some goons who have got shield weapons, took these people at this big posh dance hostage. So the X-Men go in, get the hostages out and take on Ord. And Ord sort of reveals, well, this was just a test, I wanted to see how good the X-Men were. So then, meanwhile, across town, Dr. Rao is unveiling that she's found a cure for the mutant gene. No more mutants, they can have this cure. This, of course, splits the mutant community down the middle. It splits them in half. Even the team fight amongst themselves over whether or not this cure should exist and whether or not they should use it. Cyclops goes to Nick Fury to try and find out why these goons had shield weapons. Fury's very off with him and makes it clear that he wouldn't see him unless he respected Xavier so much. And he's very hostile towards Scott, to the point that when Scott gets home, Wolverine asks him how he gets on. Cyclops said, we're on our own. And Wolverine goes like, as always. And I really like this scene now, when you see where Cyclops' characters ended up at the beginning of Avengers vs. X-Men, and how he feels very much abandoned by the superhero community. This book, you can kind of see the beginnings of that, and you sort of question if that was Captain America for the Avengers or Reed Richards for the Fantastic Four, would Fury have given him that same reaction? And so, like, it's really interesting now, knowing what we know now, and looking back at this issue then, and seeing that this could be the beginnings of Cyclops beginning to feel that they're isolated from the rest of the superhero community. Beast knows this Dr. Rao, so he goes to her to get this cure so he can test it to make sure it's legit. Wolverine and Emma just want to take this woman out. The Beast's like, no, we need to know if this cure is legit first before we decide what to do going forwards. It's while he's testing it and trying to find if it's legit that he makes a shocking discovery, which I'm not going to reveal because that's a big spoiler in this one. It's a big part of the book, but that really pushes the story on to the next part, and it's his discovery that really makes them have to go to where they go in the second half of the book. But yeah, this was a really good book. I loved the dynamics between the characters, the interactions. For example, Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, the banter and the way they are with each other, you can tell that there's a deep friendship there. Likewise, you can tell Kitty has no love for Emma, and you know, Reading just writes these characters and the interactions between them well. Even some of the students that we meet in this book, he really fleshes them out really well, and it makes you want to know more about them, and maybe even see them in their own books. My favourite character in this book was Kitty Pryde. She was really well written. She's never been my favourite X-Man, but the way she was written in this book really set the template for how I think people since this book have sort of written a character. She's a lot older now. She's more grown up, a lot more self-assured, and I also love the way that they used her as part of the team, because you think, oh yeah, she can go through walls, but how's that going to do in a fight? But the way that they use her and the way each member of the team and their function within the team, I really liked, and I thought showed that a lot of thought went into putting the team together and what each character could do. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking this book out. Really great book. If I had to name my top 10 graphic novels, this would definitely be in that top 10. Even if you're not collecting the Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection, get this book, because this book is just brilliant. You can probably pick it up cheap on eBay or Amazon, or maybe look in your comic book shop. But this is a great book. As always, the spine you have there, it's number 36, and we have our next bit of picture. Inside we have the Astonishing X-Men gifted, your inside cover. We then have the names who put the book together, as well as a nice little picture from the book. We then have our introduction as always, and we have the story so far, which is really useful as always to keep up. We then have the reprint of the cover, and then we go into the story. The art in this book is great. I never mentioned the art by Cassidy, but there's some really great scenes in the book. That's got to be my favourite double page spread of the whole book, when they're getting ready to go on their first mission. But yeah, the art all the way through it. You've got Ord there, that's Ord. Also this side, Ord. But the art all the way through the book is really great. I'm not looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing John Cassidy on Uncanny Avengers. We then got this lovely article on Joss Whedon, the writer. And I didn't realise, I really love Buffy, but I didn't realise that the Buffy character he got the idea from Kitty Pryde. He was a big X-Men fan, and he sort of based a lot of her character around Kitty Pryde. In our origins, we have the school, Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, looking at the history of the school, and then of course you got your further reading. So yeah, this book, a great book, really enjoyed it, and give it a thumbs up, and definitely recommend checking that one out. Next up, another one I was looking forward to getting, and that is Captain Britain, A Crooked World, written by Alan Moore, art by Alan Davis. And the reason I was looking forward to this one is one of my favourite books is Watchmen, but I'd never read anything else by Alan Moore. I also really liked Paul Cornell's run on Captain Britain. I think it was Captain Britain and MI13, I think it was called. I really loved that book, and so I was interested to also find out a bit more about Captain Britain. So, two birds, one stone. So I was really looking forward to this, and it delivered. I loved this book. The format of the book is a lot different to your regular comic, because it's reprinted from a British comic, and whereas in the American comics you have like say 20 pages of story, in this is printed a lot like, if I don't know how many of you know 2000 AD, the British comics have always been very much like that. in that you would have a number of different stories throughout the comic, and each story might get about 7 pages. So this is reprinted from those comics, so each issue is like 7 pages. So the story is very fast paced. You don't have no time for the story to build. It just continues. Once you start this book, it's just a continuous fast pace for the finish. In the one respect though, it makes it a good read if you have 10 minutes here or there. You can read, you can read a chapter and then put it down and then come back and read 10 minutes. So it makes it a nice book in that respect to get through. But it is different, and the format does make the pacing of the story very different. Getting to the story itself, we start off. Captain Britain is on Earth 238. The regular Earth in the Marvel Universe is the 616. So he's on this alternate Earth, is Captain Britain, and he and his friend Jackdaw, and this world is ruled by Mad Jim Jaspers. No, was it Mad Jim Casper? Yeah, Mad Jim Jaspers, and he has built this machine called the Cyberknight that he calls the Fury, and it's like kind of like the Terminator in a way, in that he hunts down superheroes and kills them. But what it does is, if say for example it fought Cyclops, and Cyclops destroys the Fury with his optic blast, the machine will then rebuild itself, but it will have rebuild itself with a defense against Cyclops' optic beam. So then you can't use the same thing on it twice, because it will build a defense to that. And he has pretty much killed all the heroes on this world. So Captain Britain's there with his friend Jackdaw, as well as this character called Saturn 9 and the Avant-Garde, and who are a group of soldiers. And they're there to sort of save this world from Mad Jim Jaspers and the Fury. Jaspers is a mutant, so he can alter reality, and that was how he was able to build the Fury, with his powers. Saturn 9, she sort of, when they meet the Fury, she leaves this planet with her Avant-Garde, leaving Captain Britain and Jackdaw alone to face the Fury. So how can Captain Britain defeat the Fury? His battle does take a shocking turn, and the book just carries on from there, and it's all the way through. It's like things happening and thinking, I never saw that coming. Really, really good book. The imagination of Alan Moore is just tremendous. The characters he creates in this, the scenarios he creates are just brilliant. It's just a fantastic madcap journey, and the end, I just love the ending. The way they find to defeat the Fury is brilliant, and Mad Jim Jaspers is brilliant. So yeah, I really enjoyed the book. I really recommend it. The art I really enjoyed. I found it difficult to judge the art though, because it was very evocative of the 80s, and that was the era that I started buying comic books. So I had a very, it gave me a nice warm nostalgic feeling. So I can't separate that emotion to look at it objectively and say, well yeah, the art was great, the art was rubbish. I can't, because I just, every time I look at it I get that warm fuzzy feeling, and it takes me back to my youth. And I can remember going to my nan's, and there'd be this wall, and I'd sit on this wall with my comics. I'd climb up on top of this wall, sit there with my comics, reading my comics, and it just takes me back to that place and them happy times. And so it's very difficult, but I did enjoy it. So obviously I enjoyed the art, but I can't objectively say yes, this is great art, because like I said, it's too integrated with my emotions. The story though was great. As always, the book is well presented. You have there, it's book 3, so definitely because this is from the 80s, so we're definitely going in chronological order. Inside the inside cover, we have of course our montage of scenes from the book. We then have a nice inside cover with Captain Britain and the Fury on it. We then have like who put the book together, who are the creative people behind the book, and a nice picture of Captain Britain. We have our story so far, as well as our introduction, which are both great. There's no cover reprint initially in here, as you go straight into the story. But I just really enjoyed this book. I thought, like I said, the art I really enjoyed. and the story does take some nice twists and turns and just leads you off in places you weren't expecting it to go, and it goes at a supersonic pace. Next up, we have in the back we have the origin of Captain Britain, which was an interesting read, and that's three pages long. And then we have the writer Alan Moore, so we have a nice piece there, nice 3 pages. And then we have this nice gallery reprinting the covers of the books that these stories are from, and you can see from the covers that all the other characters that were in them comics. And we have then, to finish off, we have a nice artwork gallery at the back, and then you have your further reading, looking at the writer and the eyes, the character. So yeah, as always, a good book. I give it a thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. It's quite thick, as you can see, if you compare it to, it's quite a bit thicker than the you know, so yeah, so this one's quite a bit thicker to that, as you can see. So you do get a bit more for the same price. You get a bit more, but yeah, this was another one I really enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up, worth checking out. Finally, we have another book that I wasn't too sure about, but I loved, was Avengers Forever Part 1, written by Kurt Busiek and art by Carlos Pachenko. This story, wow, where do I start? It features a character called Rick Jones, and for those of you who don't know Rick Jones, he is the kid who took the dare to go onto the military site when the gamma bomb was going to go off, and Bruce Banner had to run out and save the kid and get exposed to the gamma radiation that turned him into the Hulk. That is who Rick Jones is. Rick Jones then played a big part. He was kind of like the Hulk's sidekick. He'd always travel around with the Hulk to try and help the Hulk, because he felt responsible for Banner actually becoming the Hulk. And he then played a very big part in bringing the original team of the Avengers together and setting them up. And later on, he did play a part in some of their adventures, and he also even trained under Captain America and became Captain America's sidekick for a while, dressed up as Bucky and was Captain America's sidekick for a while there. At the beginning of this story, he's in a wheelchair, but he had played a part years earlier in an Avengers story, the Kree Skull War, and he's got this latent power from that war that he didn't know he still had. And Mortus, the Master of Time, has seen a reality where he will use this power to take over the universe, and he can't allow that. So Mortus is going to try and kill him at an earlier point in time. So Mortus travels back to kill Rick Jones, but this latent power activates, and Rick Jones brings together a team of Avengers from throughout time. So at different points in time, so from different points in the past, he brings together Captain America, Hawkeye and Yellow Jacket. From the present, he brings in the Wasp and Giant Man, and from the future, he brings in Snowbird and Captain Marvel. And they then are going to try and help protect him and hide him from Immortus. And they find in this fight with Immortus the most unlikely of allies in Kang, you know, because Kang does eventually become Immortus. Immortus is a future version of Kang, and Kang doesn't want to become Immortus. So they do find an unlikely ally in Kang in trying to hide Rick Jones from Immortus, while at the same time trying to figure out why it is that Immortus wants him dead. A really great book. There's so much time travel, and you know, they go to different points in the past and the future and see how things could turn out, which I really love, because I love those kind of alternate timeline stories, and you get that so much in here. All through it as well, you know, you're getting introduced to these characters, but that they're very much characters of their time. But my one slight gripe, and it's not so much a complaint or a gripe, it's just an observation, is that I think, you know, I love the Avengers, but I haven't read all their stuff from the 60s and 70s. So there are gaps in my knowledge. And I think very much this is a book that you can enjoy. You don't need to have no knowledge, you can enjoy it. But I think the more knowledge you have of the Avengers and of what happened to them in the 60s and 70s, then I think the more you would enjoy this book, because there is so much they draw upon for example, there's a scene where they discover that there's more than one of this character called the Space Phantom. They discover there's more than one of him, and it seems to be a big plot point, and it seems to be a big thing to the characters when they encounter this and they find this out. Now, I've never read that character before, but maybe if I'd read all the Avengers stories with that character, maybe that would make sense of something. I don't know. So like, I do think you would get a lot more out of it if you've read all those old stories. But saying that, you don't need to. The book's well written enough that you could still enjoy it on a level of being a great story. The art as well, I really enjoyed the art. Again, just like the last book was evocative of the 80s, this book for me was evocative of the art style of the 90s. I enjoyed it still. I liked it. It was fun. It had that bright, breezy, fun kind of feel to it, and that was exactly what this book was. The art really suited what the story was. It was this bright and breezy adventure story. I enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. I'm looking forward to part 2 to see how this book finishes. But yeah, this was one I wasn't expecting that much from, and surprised me. So I definitely give it a thumbs up. On the spine, you can see there it's number 14 in the collection, and you get more of your picture. Inside, as always, you have the montage of scenes from the book. You will also have there Avengers Forever, inside cover with all your characters. You then have the creative team writing, and you can see Roger Stern helped Kurt Busiek script helped him plot the story. Roger Stern was, I think he was the regular writer in the 80s. I'm not sure if he went as far back as the 70s, but I know he had a good run in the 80s on the Avengers book. You've got your story so far, which comes in really handy, as well as always, your introduction to part 1. We have the reprint of our inside of our cover, and then you go into the story. Like I said, the art is really fun. This is the beginning of the book where they show you the alternate future, where you've got Rick Jones with his power, and he's got this army of Avengers. But like I said, the artwork just really worked well for me. You have the Kree Supreme Intelligence turns up in there, and there is our team of Avengers in action. So yeah, I really enjoyed the art. It was nice, it was breezy. There's even a bit here, if you see, where they're in the Wild West. The characters sort of split up at one point, and they go to different time points to sort of try and figure out what's happening. But that's all really great. We then have this great 3-page piece on Kurt Busiek, looking at his career. We then have the variant covers, the reprint of all the variant covers for the book, as you can see there. And this was my favourite bit of the book, the team roster, and they look at each of the characters and where they are when they are introduced to the story. So it looks at what had happened to Captain America that we meet in this book, what had happened to Yellow Jacket, what happened, or why were they like they were where they were. Also has a look at Songbird there. So I thought that was a really great piece that they did. We then have a nice piece on the artist looking at his career and the books that he's worked on, and then in the back we have your further reading, which you can see we're getting part 2 of this book, as well as Marvels, a book called Marvels as well. So that's very good. So yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this one, and give a thumbs up. And I must say, they're doing a really good job on the stories, because out of 12 there's only one I didn't enjoy, so it's been really good so far, this collection. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, up above me should be the subscribe button. Hit it, and in your feed here on YouTube you will get my videos whenever I record them. Down below there's the thumbs up and the thumbs down. If you feel this video is good or bad, feel free to click that, let me know. I will be back with another Marvel Ultimate Graphic Novel review soon. I've got one more book to read, and then I've read the 3 for the next one, so that should take me about a week. So hopefully in about a week's time I'll have another video up. Once again, thanks for watching, and bye for now.